good evening to you both. And let's begin with the one topic that has been top of mind for most Albertans this week.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
While the return of smoky skies has forced some indoors, many are maintaining their daily activities, like Shirley Arsenault, who moved to Edmonton from Ontario around the time of the destructive Jasper fire.
Really smell the smoke, and we stayed inside and we were terrified not to go outside and stuff, right? And then our neighbors told us, you know what, kind of get used to it because this is your new life.
And that's a worrisome mindset for health experts who warn against complacency when air quality worsens.
It's more toxic than cigarette smoke. You don't realize it, but over time, over many decades, your lung function will drop naturally. And you could be accelerating that lung function decline if you continue to go out into thick smoke and breathe it.
As for pets, they too shouldn't be spending much time out in smoky conditions.
You can take them out for 2 minutes, let them do their business, and then back in the house. And we can play with them in the house. They don't just have to lie around and do nothing.
The Air Quality Health Index held at 10 plus in parts of Alberta this week. That is the worst possible score. And wow, the Calgary skyline there, quite smoky. Alex, how challenged are you to refrain from spending time outdoors when the conditions are so smoky? And what's your approach to weighing that danger to health element?
I think this week I probably could have been more challenged, frankly. I was out for a walk, ironically, with my dog when it was 10 plus, and I do not recommend. I think I have historically fallen into the camp of like, oh, I'll just push through. But I do think that mindset needs to change. You know, the thing about smoke, at least for me, is it's not like one specific thing is affected, but you just all across the board just feel worse. So I have seen these studies about how it is more toxic than we think, and it is having a real effect. And it does feel like something that, yeah, we need to be paying attention to.
Bob, what degree of complacency do you feel Albertans are adopting as these smoky summer skies become more of the new norm?
Yeah, well, I just think the fact that people are actually referring to it as smoke season, that makes it like this thing that we need to accept now. I saw a post the other day that the air was like a bingo hall in the 80s, which I don't know if Alex will remember that, but I do. But I think I was speaking with some respiratory technologists, and they don't want it to become the new normal. They want us to do something to stop this from happening every year, because it's pretty tasty out there sometimes.
Alex, what do you see needing to happen to change this mindset?
I mean, speaking of complacency, one of the things that has bothered me about some of the media coverage and also just the larger conversation about this is how reluctant we still are to say climate change. You know, from the perspective of a reporter, for a long time, the challenge was it was really hard to tie something, you know, very broad and something that can feel amorphous like climate change to specific fires. But there now is research to suggest that climate change, you know, is the driving factor between larger, bigger, more prevalent fires. So I think we do need to actually talk about some of the cause and effect here. I realize that it's hard when you're just trying to make decisions for your day to think about some of these big, larger geopolitical issues. But at the same time, I do think we need to be clear-eyed about the fact that there is a reason why this didn't used to be the case. And maybe that's something that we actually need to start talking about taking action on.
All right. Next up for us, news this week of teachers voting overwhelmingly in favor of strike action. It's hitting home for many Albertans.
They're some of the hardest working people I know, so I really hope they get something fair. I also hope my kids stay in school.
Many parents are already pondering the realities of a strike, which for Alberta teachers would be the first in more than 20 years, and 72 hours notice could come at any point over a 120-day window.
We had education support staff already strike earlier this year, and for a lot of the same reasons, you know, stagnant wages, and that concern that educators have about the needs of our kids not being met in the classroom.
With memories of COVID-era shutdowns lingering, students are also worried about how a teacher strike might set them back academically. While teachers are now discussing their next moves, the government has indicated it plans on resuming negotiations this summer. Bob, of all the groups negotiating contracts with the Alberta government, why do you think the education sector whether it's teachers or support staff previously, why this sector is the one that's been pushed to the point of striking in recent months.
I think I know a lot of teachers, and the word they give me straight up is that the class size is the biggest issue, and that they've lost a lot of help in the rooms. And they're not really worried about, they seem to not be worried about money too much. I don't want to say that outright, but the big issue for them was class size and resources. So, and like you saw, those parents are concerned about having to get daycares and stuff. That the kids need to be in school. So hopefully this gets resolved.
And Alex, assuming teachers hold off on a strike through the remaining weeks of this current school year, and this extends then into the summer months, how much pressure do you think this situation will bring to bear on government MLAs, the politicians, as they navigate the traditional summer barbecue circuit?
I think it does put pressure on them. I mean, when kids are out for the summer and everyone's trying to relax, I don't think people want to think about, the looming childcare issues they could be facing come September if their kids aren't able to go to school. So the fact that this could potentially be, an evergreen conversation, an evergreen criticism throughout the summer months, I think that is going to have the impact of putting on some pressure here. So we'll see what the future holds.
Bob, what should be the takeaway, do you think, from these teacher developments for other public sector unions in our province?
Well, I think they all have to realize it's going to be a tough bargaining with the UCP government. And if the teachers get a good settlement or a settlement they're happy with, maybe that'll set a bar for down the line as each other union tries to negotiate with the UCP. But, they draw lines in the sand and then try and go for a happy ending for everybody. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
The G7 summit is almost here, and the ripple effects will reach out from Calgary to Kananaskis, with world leaders arriving over the weekend for the start of high-stakes talks in high altitudes. They'll be greeted with heavy security and sweets.
World-class chocolate on a world-class stage, so it's nice that we can get our stuff out there and have people see how good it is.
Custom chocolates from this Calgary company are among an assortment of Canadian goods being gifted to some 750 delegates when they arrive. As for businesses out in Kananaskis Village, many have been through this before, including the owners of Moose Family Kitchen, who met the Japanese Prime Minister during the G8 summit in 2002. And while they can apply for lost sales compensation this time around, and staff members are now on vacation, they have no plans to leave.
I'll take that trade-off any day, because something like this is a very unique experience for us.
And back in Calgary with motorcade soon, moving delegates around, you might even catch a glimpse of high-tech traffic controllers.
VR headset to actually stand at the intersection and make changes to the traffic signals. It is the first of its kind in Canada.
To help with traffic flow, work on the 4th Avenue flyover has been finished early, and 21 projects downtown have been rescheduled. Alex, expectations for the exposure hosting the G7 will bring to Calgary, K-Country, Alberta in general? How big a boon might this end up being?
I mean, I think it's going to be huge. I mean, it's thousands of people coming into the area. They're going to be in Calgary. They're going to be in Banff. They're going to be in Kananaskis. I was out at the village last week before the controlled access zone went through, and there's already a humongous presence in terms of the amount of infrastructure, the amount of security, the amount of staff that they're preparing for. So it is going to be, a huge presence out in the mountains. Of course, the thing I always wonder about in these situations is, do the mountains need more exposure in terms of, getting business out there or making people realize that they're beautiful and that they're accessible? I mean, it was pretty strange to see things like the Nordic Spa, which, tends to book up weeks in advance, completely empty in the middle of peak season. So, it is taking a chunk of their capacity out in what is really their busiest time of the year. So it's going to be big. Whether or not that's needed in terms of getting more folks out to the mountains, I guess we'll see.
So, Bob, there's a degree of impacts. Some of us will see it, some of us won't. But how high on the radar do you think the G7 summit will be on the home front? Will Albertans be paying attention?
Yeah, I think an event like this will be definitely paying attention, and we're all aware of it now with the convoys whipping by and the airport tunnel being closed. You can't get to the airport, you can't get to Kananaskis. So we're all aware of the disruption side of it, and I think there's a keen interest to see what's going to come out of it and how we look on the world stage.
Alex, we saw just a brief glimpse there a moment ago of some of the goodies in the gift bags that will be given out to delegates. If there's an ideal gift that would represent Alberta, what do you suggest it might be?
Oh my gosh. Do you remember a couple years ago when there was a company that was selling bottles of fresh air, and you could actually buy a bottle of air, and you could buy them from different spots around the world. And for a while, I think they were actually selling air that had been bottled in the Rockies. But I've been thinking about this week, that if one were to go out to the Rockies this week and start bottling air, it would be a very different experience. So I don't know, I guess this isn't necessarily a gift that you would want, but in terms of putting out a different perception of the mountains, the level of smokiness this week, that is the experience, that is the gift, that is maybe the slightly change of perception I think some people are going to take with them.
Bob, what would you include in that goodie bag that would maybe leave a lasting impression with one Donald Trump?
How about this? Not all Canadians are nice, but there's so many good things you could give them, like craft beer made with our barley, our water, our yeast, Canadian whiskey that's made right here in Alberta. There's lots of things to take away. And I know they're all getting white-hatted, but they don't get to say the poem that swears you in as a Calgarian. But I know they're all getting white hats. And that story continues to tell itself when they go home.
It sure does. Indeed, indeed. Okay, one more topic for us. If you haven't solidified your summer holiday plans, you might want to wait until next week. That's when the federal government is expected to announce free access for Canadians to national parks and historic sites, making good on one of Mark Carney's election promises. The Prime Minister also referenced free via rail passes for kids under 18 traveling with their parents as well. There was mention in the Liberal election platform of heavily discounted access to museums and galleries for people aged 18 to 24. This all falls under what's being called the Canada Strong Pass, and it will reportedly be available from June 20th to the end of August. June 20th coming up real quick, Bob. Kids under 18 also free access to national museums, galleries. Is the Canada Strong Pass the summer freebie Canadian families are looking for?
Yeah, I think it might be. I'm pretty excited about it. I know my partner isn't because she already bought a national park pass. But this is all part of the stay-home tourism movement that seems to be happening in response to the United States right now. This is going to get people out and about. I like it. I know it's going to cost a lot of tax money to get this done. But what it will do is create people that want to return to these spaces and get back on the train and do all those things. So I'm on board with this, actually. I wish the UCP would do it for Kananaskis.
Well, now, Alex, what happens if Canadians embrace this Canada Strong Pass in a big way? What does that ultimately accomplish?
I mean, I think the pass is great. I think it's cool to be able to get out and experience some of the amazing things we have in this country firsthand. But whenever there's kind of this push, I know I already talked about, tourism in the mountains. Clearly, this is one of my soapboxes. But when I hear about kind of pushes to get people to the mountains or get people to the parks, I always think about Banff, which obviously is one of our very lucky to have local parks here in Alberta. But like 1 in 4 national park visits nationwide is to Banff. It is by far the most popular park. And they're already dealing with issues like you can't drive to Moraine Lake. Traffic is gridlock on a lot of Saturdays. There's massive lineups at the gate. So if you are going to give people this amazing opportunity to go see these things, they need to be ready for these numbers of visitors. And so I think this needs to come with a conversation about, well, do we have the infrastructure that we want? Are there other things that we could be doing? Are there other parks we could be boosting for tourism? So, if you're going to throw open the floodgates, those attractions have to be ready. And so I think that's going to be the question. I'm sure there's some park employees right now who are sweating a little bit.
Bob, last 30 seconds to you. Do you think Banff can handle that many more people coming through in the summer months?
No, I'll jump on with Alex there. It's chaos out there already. So maybe this would be a good time for the UCP to open up the Kananaskis, spread some more people out there. Although neither of us want all those people coming out. But Banff is chaos already, and they'll just start turning cars away at some point. They'll have to.
All right. On that note, we'll have to leave it there. Good to see you both. Hope you have an awesome weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.